So something a geography teacher said to me years ago at UNBC, like he said, anytime you meet someone who's an immigrant or someone who comes from another country, they're special. Because people that are normal, they stay, right? They stay in their country. So I was going to say, I know it's your ADHD, but also there is something special about you because of the fact that you were willing to migrate to a new country.
Yeah.
And I think more people in this country need to kind of sometimes recognize that these people that come here are pretty cool people. And they're probably a little bit adventurous and different. And maybe just get to know them a little bit.
Hello, I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from downtown Prince George, British Columbia, Canada. And for all those people watching us from around the world, Prince George is in British Columbia. And you say, okay, we know British Columbia, yeah. And then in British Columbia, you've got a big city called Vancouver. We are 500 miles north of Vancouver, or for our European friends, 800 kilometers. And it is a beautiful, beautiful country. It is kind of winter right now. And Prince George is about a city of 80,000 people. We live in nature. We have lots of forest around us. Within 50 miles from Prince George, we probably got 100 lakes. We have black bears, grizzlies, caribou, deer, and you name it, we have it all. We're living in harmony with nature. Today, very, very special guest, in particular appreciating the landscape here, because she is a photographer, and her name is Karla Lindstrom, and Karla is special because she has lived in Prince George for a long time. Mm-hmm. Tell us all about that, Karla. Are you from Prince George?
For the most part. My family's from here. I was born in Burns Lake. We traveled around a little bit.
Burns Lake, about 2.5 hours away from here, going west.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we moved around a little bit. We lived in Quesnel and Golden, and then we moved back to Prince George because this is where my family's from.
Right.
Yeah, and so I've been here ever since, and that was when I was about like 7 years old.
Right.
And I'm 33 now, so most of my life.
Yeah. And the rest of your life, you live really in the interior, save and except for Golden is around the Kootenay area, right? The southeastern part of BC, but also very beautiful. So beautiful, Prince George is such a beautiful, and BC is such a beautiful country.
It is, yes, it's so beautiful here. And what I like is that it's pretty inexpensive. Like you can go and do hikes. You can go to the lakes, you can go to the rivers, and you don't have to pay usually for parking. Like, in Vancouver, you have to pay for parking often whenever you go anywhere, like to go hiking and stuff. So that's one thing I like about Prince George. It's relatively undiscovered. So lots of hiking trails that you go on, you're not gonna necessarily encounter a lot of people on it. So
no. So I came to Prince George in 1965, July 1965, and then was a boom town. And so the question was usually, when did you get here and when are you leaving? It was mainly a place to make money, and a lot of people came here because there was lots of industry, forest industry in particular, and so the Prince George area was booming, and so it was very, very interesting. But since that time, Prince George has changed a lot, and where it now is, never used to be much of a family town, now it is.
Yes.
And so we have all the things around us, and I know you're studying at UNBC, arts, I believe.
Yeah, actually, Bachelor of Arts in Political Science is what I'm finishing up, so.
Right.
Yeah, and it's wonderful having UNBC so close. It's such a blessing. Obviously, you save so much money having the school here, not having to move out of town and pay the rent that's in Vancouver.
Yeah, so, and UNBC, University of Northern British Columbia, recognized in Canada as one of the most successful and most admired university in Canada of the smaller universities. And it was quite a challenge for us collectively to get it here because there is not as much population in the north as there is down the coast, meaning Vancouver. Vancouver Island, Vancouver region, Lower Mainland, as we call it, or Vancouver Island. And so there is always a lot of challenges to getting money from the provincial government. And what we wanted to do collectively is get a freestanding university here in British Columbia. And it was about, how long ago was it now? 30 years ago?
Oh yeah, must have been.
Yeah. So so anyway, we are lucky to have that freestanding university, and it has served us well. And I was in a meeting the other day in one of my companies, and half a dozen people around the boardroom table, and all of them were alumni from the University of British Columbia, including myself. I have a doctorate of honorary doctorates, mind you, of laws from the University of British Columbia, and I was very involved in getting it off the ground. I was a writing president then of the political party that had the funding, so we really fought for it, and we got it. The other part, not to forget, is the College of New Caledonia, that has a major college here that has satellites all throughout northern British Columbia, including Burns Lake, I believe.
Oh yes.
Mackenzie, Quesnel, and all the other places, and so does UNBC.
They do.
Actually, because it's a big area. And then the other part that we have here is First Nations, a number of nations in northern British Columbia that again benefit from all the schooling here and all the other things. And then Prince George is kind of, I call it the capital of northern British Columbia. And you know, all the roads, all the railroads, all the airlines come together here in our region.
It does, yeah. It's the gateway. It really is.
It is a gateway.
Yeah, and that university, it's a big deal. Like it really is. One nice thing, it's beautiful. Well, that's the first thing. It really is probably one of the most gorgeous universities I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Even just architecture I've ever seen.
I agree.
So that's one thing. It's nice going there. And it's really personable. Like the classes are small. I know all my teachers quite well. They know me well. I usually get to know the class, which that isn't often the case. Like in university, usually the classes are quite big, and so you get that one-on-one time, and it is less money. Like it's a little bit less money. And then CNC, I actually went there as well, and it's also a really great school, and it makes education affordable and accessible to the northern communities and to the people up here and to the First Nations, and to just a lot of different communities that otherwise wouldn't have access to it if it wasn't here.
Yeah, or if they would go, they would have to go to UC Vancouver or Victoria, but mainly Vancouver. And it's expensive there to find a place to stay, and far away from Prince George, and this way you're still close to your community and your support system. So it's very, very important.
Yeah, exactly, and socially too, like you're saying, like because when you get to stay in your community or near your community, you can still have those relationships with people, with your family. I mean, depending on like if people are married or not, like they could have to also leave their spouse and go down south. So there's just so many reasons why it's just. It really is a blessing. Like I'm so grateful for it. I chose to go here over going to UBC. Yeah. And a part of it is you do feel like the environment and the First Nations and the northern community is a part of that school. When you go there, like I said, in the architecture and just the way they communicate and the way that it's built, and because of that, like it just connects you to the north, and it kind of and that's something that I do enjoy. Like I love the south, but I love the north. I love the northern people. I love the northern animals. I love the northern geography, and I do like that. Like I said, it's all it's very, well, maybe it's not that accessible because you could be going to the deep woods, but for the most part, a lot of the trails around here are pretty accessible and free and easy to get to and beautiful. So
you're studying arts and political science at UNBC. So what's the objectives that you have for a career? Well, your photography obviously is a big part of your life.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never take photography off the table. because I really love to do it. It's really natural. Like all the pictures I've taken, they've just been for me. That's why I haven't turned it into a business yet. Like even this is such like a blessing to have this podcast, but it was never something that I expected. I was just doing it just to show off the beauty of the community, because I think especially in the world we live in, so many people have mental health issues, and social media often makes everything that isn't your life seem amazing. And I think it's really important to appreciate the life that you live in, and whatever community you live in, and whatever environment that is. And so that's why I do it. It's just kind of like the little bit of a beauty that I see kind of every day, I guess. And then, but for your real question, I don't know exactly, but I am pretty passionate about policy and about human rights. And I'm not opposed to getting into the government necessarily, but I'm more passionate about just creating policy that's going to create a better foundation for Canadians and human rights for Canadians here.
So you're thinking politics potentially?
Potentially, yeah. Maybe behind the scenes politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I do want to help people, and I want to preserve this community, preserve Canada, preserve the nature here, preserve the benefits that we have here. So that's something I'm definitely interested in. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an amazing country, and
It
I
is.
love Canada. And you know, I was born in Holland in 1940, actually, and you know, and that was during the beginning of the Second World War, and we were liberated April the 12th, 1945, by the Canadians. It made such an impression on me that I knew from that point forward, being 5 years old, once I grew up, I would go to the land of my heroes, Canada. And so I've always felt that way. And I finally did go when I was 23.
Yeah.
And then the other dream that I had is to build a lumber mill.
Which is so cool, yeah.
Yeah, and then I came here, and I had in my pocket, I had a suitcase, 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, and I counted my money at least 3 times at the Greyhound station. I had $25.47.
Yeah.
But what I did have is attitude. I was always being positive, passion. No matter what I do, I give it 125%, and work ethic. I claim I work harder than anybody, and I usually get up at 5:30 in the morning, and then I always make my bed, and I always feel I'm late, and so I'm always in a hurry to go, and that's kind of what I do. And you know, and yes, I do. As you know, I have a lumber mill, and a couple of them actually. One in Prince George, one in Vanderhoef, one in Houston, BC, and so I just love it here.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, no, and I mean, that's so inspiring. And I mean, especially if you know how important the forestry industry is to Prince George. It's built this town.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's really
Now,
interesting.
you spent some time working for a company by the name of CANFOR.
I did, yeah.
And you did for them.
I was a safety advisor, for them. Yeah.
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 So tell us a little bit about that. What was your role then?
So I was safety advisor with them.
Yeah, and CANFOR was one of the largest forest companies in British Columbia, and unfortunately, through economic viability and a number of other reasons, they have decided that they would locate in other locations, primarily the U.S. Southeast and Sweden, and so. But they are globally still very active, and they still have operations here, but they have downscaled quite a bit.
They have, yeah, but I had a really positive experience with CANFOR.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for it. My grandfather worked for them for quite a long time as well. He was a safety advisor with them.
Okay.
He just passed away when he was 95, but he was with them for,
Wow.
yeah, like, I don't know, 35 years, and
Wow.
they were good to him too. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, so I have definitely no complaints with that. It's just too bad to see what's going on with the forestry industry in general.
Right.
And yeah, it is. It's just too bad. Like CANFOR is, you're right. It's still a big company in the world. It's not, but it has been sad to see just what's happened overall with the province. So I'm hoping that maybe that's going to change. I would love to see it, but as we know with just even the announcements that are happening today, there's lots of chatter in that industry. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next year.
Yeah.
But when I was with them, I was a safety advisor, and we handled emergency response at the mills, ordering overtime meals and doing administration calls, and then also handling first aid investigations and safety investigations. And
Right.
I just learned so much there. Like I really
How
had
long
the
were you
best
there?
time. It was about 3 years.
Interesting experience.
Yeah, it was. It was. And I met some really great people, honestly. And I got to know a lot of cool people in the community. And and the guys I worked with had been there forever, and they taught me a lot. So even just about life in general.
Yeah.
And so it also invigorated my passion for, like I said, the community. Like
Right.
I am passionate about just keeping the community alive and keeping jobs for these people that I think are really great people that live here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And and obviously a lot of jobs were affected by it
of
adversely.
course, yeah.
But on the other hand, as you well know, is that we still have a lot of resources here in British Columbia, including timber, actually. Obviously, timber is one of the few renewable resources.
Yeah.
And as one, and you do a lot of that, I'm sure, so do I. I fly a lot, and I fly over British Columbia, and I said, it's paradise.
I know
It
it is paradise.
paradise.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
compared to the rest of the world, and seeing all the challenges around the world, looking at the Ukraine, Middle East, South America, Venezuela, Cuba, China, Russia, go on and on and on and on.
I know.
How lucky we are to live here.
Yeah.
You know?
I think more people need to travel. I think that's part of the problem. I mean, economically, it's not always an option, so it's not really their fault. But I do think more people need to travel, because I know that's what definitely opened my eyes. Like the traveling that I've done, even to Europe. And Europe's amazing. I love it. But if you've ever actually gone to Rome and Italy, if you've ever actually gone to Paris, it's so dirty. Like it really is. Like garbage day in Paris, they just put their garbage out. I mean, sort of people in Paris, maybe I'm wrong, maybe they've changed it now, because this has been a few years ago, but I remember walking to go to a tour. It was Sunday morning, it was their garbage day, and they just put their garbage out on the sidewalk. And like it does get picked up and everything, but it's just a different culture than we do. We just don't do that. Yeah, so that was really shocking to me. Italy, again, maybe it's changed now. This was pre-COVID, but when I went there, everyone smoked, and my family smoked a lot, but it was just interesting, like the different culture.
Yeah.
And the garbage, and I lived in Vancouver for a couple of years, and it was really great, but you have to pay to go everywhere. You have to, and it's not just Vancouver, it's probably any big city, but you have to pay to go everywhere. It's just so expensive. And then you come back home to Prince George, and half the time I don't even turn my vehicle off when I go inside to as terrible as it is, or like I don't lock it at the very least, which is also terrible, but I just run inside to the store, right? And you can't do that in a big city.
No, it's not possible.
And yeah, you can't just go anywhere you want. That's another thing, safety. I should have brought that up. Like in Canada, in Prince George too, like being a woman, it's so safe. Within reason, but I pretty much feel safe walking alone at night here. And there's a lot of places in the world where that is not, like you would actually probably be kidnapped or have something horrible happen to you, right? Like it's really, really unsafe. And so, all those little things, I just think that they're not to be taken for granted.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and the other part that you mentioned about it, obviously I grew up in Europe. You've traveled a lot around
yeah,
the world.
sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Yeah, but I love Europe. It's so beautiful. It really
well,
is.
Holland
yeah.
in
But
particular.
it's just a little dirty sometimes.
Yeah, Holland in particular, that is still very close to my heart in a way. But I'm a Canadian, so and from the time that I was 5 years old, my dream was to go to Canada.
Yeah.
And then it's the land of opportunity, and then it's so immensely beautiful. And so what we do is that for 30 years when I was building the mills here, I would work 7 days a week as long as I could stay awake.
Yeah.
Really. So we now have a place in North Saanich, just outside of Victoria, and then usually I go there for the weekends. So I go
I
Friday
see.
afternoons, come back
Yeah.
on Monday.
Yeah.
You know, and that works for me. It kind of separates me from my office, from not being there 7 days a week, and so, and I love the area as well there, right?
Oh yeah, North Saanich. Yeah, that's a beautiful area too.
It's beautiful.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, yeah, well, all of BC is so beautiful. Like you said,
It
Prince
is.
George is so beautiful, but I mean, yeah, you just go to the coast and, oh my goodness.
yeah,
Or Haida Gwaii or any of those places, you know?
yeah,
And they're relatively undiscovered for the most part.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
So coming back to you and Prince George, so photography has always been part of something that you liked to do, and you do now more and more, in particular of nature, or what is the area that attracts you the most about it? You have I looked at some of your pictures in your bio,
Yeah.
and you have you know, taking, there is one thing about taking pictures, and there is another thing about seeing the picture before you take it. You know that that will make a perfect picture.
Yeah. I don't even know really how to describe it. It just kind of, a feeling comes over me and I just know it's going to be a good shot. Well, and sometimes you just see something and you kind of take some pictures and then you look later and you're like, wow, that was amazing. But I usually can kind of feel when something is going to be a good picture. And I try to show, I guess, kind of like an emotion in it. I try to show, whether even just be like hope. Like I like to use light a lot. Like I really like how light can play off of like trees and things like that. And so I do like to use pictures to kind of just show like hope and that the world is good and this is beautiful. Yeah.
So the one that you got sitting
Yeah.
there, can we take a look at that
Of
and
course.
see what it looks
Yes.
like?
Thank
Show
you.
me what was on your mind when you, and then we'll all, yeah. So that's kind of unique, and then show
Yeah.
it to our camera there. So that was a lake.
No. Okay. So your neighborhood, the neighborhood you're building, the Brink
Okay.
neighborhood,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one that's gated off.
Yeah.
So I used to live in the house. There's like a house down right by the water there. I rented a basement suite there, and I'd always read my book down at the river. And so that's actually like right at the river, kind of like if you were to walk down from the houses there to where they might build like a little park down there or something.
Yeah.
I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So I fenced it off.
yeah, you did, but that's okay. There's still actually a lot of area, but
Yeah.
but yes,
Because that's where my strata is.
where it starts, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but this
Were you
is-
living there then? In
I think, yeah, because there was a fence, yeah. But this is just below that house,
yeah.
yeah. And it's just the most beautiful, like, what a great spot to pick, because that is like the most beautiful sunsets that you ever see.
Looks beautiful.
Yeah. And that's not even the best picture I got, I'm not going to lie. Like, and there's even better pictures, but I was like, I like that picture. And that's during the summer when we got, when we had the fires, unfortunately. So the one thing about fires is they're terrible, and I don't wish for them ever to happen, but they make really beautiful pictures.
Yeah.
They really do, because they turn like the sun or the moon red, right? So, and that's not even filtered at all. That's just with
Wow.
the smoke from the fire.
Have you got other pictures with you?
I do, yes. Yeah. So which one did I pick here for you? Oh yeah, this is from the same spot too. So this is also from that spot.
Wow. The Nechako.
Yeah, the Nechako
River.
River, I should say. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Nechako River. Yeah.
Yeah.
On Foothills, near the Foothills Bridge there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I brought those for you so you can keep those.
I love them.
And then I just brought some other ones for you to take.
Oh my, that's a
keep
beautiful
them.
picture as well. So this is, what is it?
This is the Northern Lights from actually just a few nights ago.
How do I hold it?
Oh, it's okay. I don't know. Where's the camera?
Right there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the Northern Lights from like a couple nights ago, actually. And this is just,
Okay.
all these were taken with iPhone. It's not with a professional camera at all.
Right.
And this was the iPhone night mode. is what I put on for it.
I didn't even know there was a night mode on.
Yeah, it's like in the little top left-hand corner, and it just puts a bit of exposure on the picture. Like you gotta have the color there though for it to even happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just great. This was like the other night. I just couldn't believe it.
So where was it?
This would have been just over kind of Cottonwood area.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Right? Yeah.
And then here I have an interesting picture, and that's what I usually say when I introduce my podcast, and I usually do a little bit of a story. That's what I tell the city. We have, I think, over the last 2 years or so, we have had 22 million people viewing our podcast, and I think we have approaching 700,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Oh my goodness.
And I always tell them about the beauty of British Columbia and Prince George in particular, and so and one of the things that I share with my guests from around the world is that we have black bears here and grizzlies. This is one with a black bears and 3 cubs.
3 cubs, yeah. This is just
And
in storage.
that again, you could have been taken in the same spot as you have there, because we got them there right close to the Northern Chaco.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really do. We have them everywhere, like in town, but they're friendly for the most part. Like as long as you know how.
Don't
to
scare them.
Yeah.
Don't get in between them and their cubs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, as long as that's the case, that's all right. Because I know some people get scared to go hiking and stuff just because of the bears, and they're really I've never had a problem with them.
No, I haven't
wood,
either.
So.
No.
Yeah, and I guess for animals, I feel like, who knows if those bears will survive, right? So at least, I got a picture of them, and that'll always live on.
Yeah, and I like that.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is the fire. So I was saying this is a moon during the fire.
So did you take that in 2018, 2019?
No, this was this summer.
This summer?
Yeah, surprisingly. But it was pretty smoky for a little bit. Not as long, though.
Yeah.
So beautiful pictures, just destructive.
And then this one here.
Yes, I just took this the other day, actually, just coming down a road in town. And yeah.
So you stopped because you saw it, you got your camera out, you say click.
100%. Yeah, I just came around the corner and I seen the light coming through the trees like that. And I was like, oh, I got to get a shot of that.
You knew it right then, right?
I gotta, Because I do. This picture actually specifically, I feel like it's like hope.
Yeah.
It's like like the light's coming through. The light will come through.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, what's this one? Oh, this is the other one, Northern Lights. Yeah, this is from the other night, and this is unedited, other than the fact that it was in night mode when I took it.
So that's Northern Lights.
Yeah, here.
And usually we don't see that much here. I lived for 5 years in the Yukon, in Watson Lake. Actually, we would see them there all the time. But here, from time to time, you can see Northern Lights.
Yeah, and this one was you had to have the night mode on to see it to this level, but you could see the pink without the camera, and that was the first time I've ever seen that.
Wow.
Yeah, like a little bit pink. So yeah, we do get Northern Lights sometimes here.
Yeah.
Not as often though.
Tell us about this picture.
This one, yeah, I brought this one because it's of the cut banks and of the mountains, and it's also unedited. I go to UNBC obviously, so I was driving home and I was coming down the hill and I seen it and I pulled over, and I just really liked how the sun hit the mountains there.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And that is the mountains way in the background at the border of Alberta and British Columbia.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I think people forget a lot that in Prince George you have mountains.
Yeah.
We don't always talk about it. We kind of forget about it. And so that's, I just thought it was really pretty picture, nice reminder that we do.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Right.
So now the other thing that you do is, have you got a website that people can look at? Do you sell your pictures?
Not yet, but I'm going to. I just had some stuff to figure out with that. I wasn't sure if I was going to brand it first, but I think you should for pictures, just because you know, obviously you're giving your pictures away. So I got to get that kind of sorted out. But I am going to sell them at some point. For now, I just do it for fun. I just have an Instagram, Northern Girl Photography, and I just take.
Is that a website?
Just on Instagram. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
Instagram, say it again.
Northern Girl Photography.
Okay.
And yeah, and so far I just do it for fun, like you described it perfectly. Like I'll be driving, I see something,
Yeah.
pull over, take a picture,
Yeah.
and then I post it on there. And it's just been really wonderful, the responses that I've gotten from it. So
Yeah, well, because
yeah.
there's a story behind them, right? And especially, you know, if you sell them, then it becomes a business, but it's daily things for us that we see here, but maybe we don't see them. You know, maybe we don't have the eye for it and appreciate it even more, considering that these were all made in our neighborhood very close by.
Yes, they were. Yeah, and you
Yeah.
just have to slow down sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the message, really, you know.
It is,
And I
yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like it.
Thank you so much.
So you're kind of debating entrepreneurship.
I am. Yeah, definitely.
So
Yeah. Because of everything you were talking about,
yeah.
just the way the world's going. Yeah.
So what will it look like?
Oh, I don't know exactly. I would love to, have some sort of photography company where I was selling my pictures. I would love to work with actual businesses or like builds to build, like kind of align maybe my pictures with what they're building, kind of thing, like maybe a little bit of interior design kind of.
Okay.
But yeah,
So your hobbies are photography, interior design, I heard.
kind of, yeah, a little bit, yeah.
So what else?
Traveling. I love to travel.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why
Travel means Europe or means Canada or means anywhere?
anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, anywhere. I think it's important to go anywhere and everywhere.
So
Yeah.
you may say, I'm just fantasizing now with you. You're saying, I'm going to go to the Yukon or the Northwest Territories to take pictures
Oh, that would be so
along
fun.
the way.
Yeah.
So, and we'll talk about the interesting parts along the way that, especially once I get to Dawson Creek, because that is mile 0 of the Alaska Highway and all the history behind it. Then I'm going to stop in Watson Lake because that's where the signposts are, you know, and it's very interesting, and it's mile 636, something like that.
Yeah.
And then then go to Whitehorse, which is 936, 940, and then go to Dawson City, and then so I'm just kind of walking with you, traveling, and then so after we do that, what we want to do is let's go to Barkerville, and there's so much history there that people talk about but really have not seen.
Yeah,
And
that's
then-
so true.
And then some other things, asbestos is not good for you, right?
No, it's definitely not.
Yeah. So there is a place
They
in
frown upon
northern
that.
BC, Cassiar, and Cassiar asbestos is where you see a mountain and they cut the whole top of the mountain off and it became asbestos.
Wow.
And so I spent 5 years in Watson Lake, and you could feel the dust and the color, the greenish color, all around Cassiar.
Wow.
And unfortunately, I don't believe that many of the people are still alive that live there.
Probably not.
No,
No.
because it's cancer causing, right? Lots of history. So that's the negative side. But then there is so many beautiful, beautiful spots here. You know, go all the way to Dawson City, to Whitehorse has a lot of history, and then so does the island. So unique in terms of the forest.
Oh yeah.
You know, and the massive trees that are there, and then the manufacturing process. So there is, I always kind of thought there'd be so much. I'm an author, and you know, but do a picture story about the beauty of British Columbia. So I think that would be very interesting to people.
Well, I appreciate that. I probably will take that idea. I think that's a good idea.
Just
I'll think
something,
about it. Yeah.
just something to think about.
Yeah, I would love to do something like that. And somehow merge that, because I'm also passionate. I am passionate, like I said, about human rights as well, and about mental health as well. It's something important to me. So if I could somehow, merge traveling and photography with being able to kind of maybe inspire people and help them with their mental health, I think that would be an absolute dream. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, so what I've done is that I'm podcasting. So I never thought that I would be podcasting, you know, but it just kind of happened. But my podcast, as you may know, is on all kinds of different topics. Obviously, as you already know from one of my books here, I'm ADHD.
Yeah.
And I call it a superpower. And so it took me till I was 62 when I was diagnosed. So
because I have ADHD as well, but it's so hard for women because sometimes our symptoms are very different than what men's symptoms are.
We portray it differently.
Portrayed differently, yeah.
Yeah. Then and so that's always the kind of way that I looked at it, and that for me, academically, I was not a success story, and I failed grade 3. And the other day, I did a presentation for a group of people, and I said, I don't know anybody that failed grade 3. And the lady way in the back said, I did. I said, okay, just the two of us. Then, you know. So anyway, and then I failed grade 7 3 times.
3 times?
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's
and
like
then
a
he
record.
said, what are we going to do with this guy? And I was 12 and a half years old, and he said, send him to the mentally challenged school. He said, no, you're not going to do that. and so then they said, oh, we'll get him a job, you know. So my dad was in lumber, and so they got me a job in a furniture factory, and so school used to go out in Holland in July, and then they had at least 4 weeks off for holidays, not like here 3 months, but then so I came back home again with another report card that said he failed again. So they said, okay, that's enough then. My dad had a friend that had a clothing store, and on the Friday I came home with another report card, and so not good. And so on Sunday we went to the clothing store, and he had to get 3 pairs of coveralls for me. So because on Monday I would go work as a laborer in the furniture factory.
At 12?
12 and a half.
12 and a half.
Yeah. And so, and I was small for my size.
Perfect,
so,
you can fit in the small spots.
So I had to roll them up, and the crotch was hanging here. It's modern today, but it wasn't then.
No, you wouldn't have been.
Yeah. So, in any event, so that's what I did, and you know, and then from there on in, you know, I was always happy-go-lucky, but on the other hand, kids can be hard on each other. And all the friends that I had, now I was a laborer, and the people that I knew went to college and university, and I was a laborer, you know. And just like I said, I'm proud of that today. But then it was a bit of a challenge. So I kind of lived in a world of my own a lot of times, and so my dream was to go to Canada. And then I already was kind of successful in Holland, even considering. And then I developed the dream of, you know, that I wanted to go to Canada when I was 17. But in Holland we had a draft. You had to go into Army, Marine, or Air Force. So I was drafted into the Air Force for 2 years. And, you and after that worked in the forest industry again for a while, and then came to Canada here in July of 1965. And, and then couldn't speak language, didn't know a soul, and went to the immigration office in Vancouver. And fortunately, there was a German fellow. I could speak a little bit of German, but I didn't speak English. Told him what I wanted to do. He said, go to Prince George. That's where they're building the mills. That's where the future is. So that's what I did. Came off the bus here with my $25.47. And so from that point forward, I started building my mills, and everybody said, oh, you're so successful. I didn't feel that way at all.
Yeah.
And so until 32 years later, in 1997, I went to a store here in Prince George, and I picked up a book. This is the book actually that I picked up.
Yeah.
And so I opened the book, and I started looking at it. I still don't know why I picked it up. Driven to Distraction.
Huh. Special price, $12.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
And Dr. Hollywell.
Okay.
And so it was about ADHD. I never even heard about ADHD. And so I wrote in it here in Dutch.
Yeah.
Now I finally know who I am.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that kind of changed my life. And the more I read about it, as you can see, I wore it out already. And, it became clear to me that ADHD is something that is quite common. I thought maybe 8% or so from what I read. And so the more I got to know about it, I thought it's much more than that. And then, and then between males and females is the same, but they disclose it differently. Males and females do. And so then I saw this book in 1997. By then, I was already 57 years old. And so I went to my doc after 5 years locally, and that delivered our 2 daughters, and he was a personal friend. He said, hey, John, why are you here? I said, I think I got ADHD. And he said, okay, let's check it out. We checked out. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And so the more I started finding out about it, I came to the conclusion it's a superpower.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like I was going to say the problems, but like their benefits, kind of. I don't know. They actually help me a lot. So.
Yeah. And so did they for me. So that I felt then, the more I read about it, the more I got to understand it, the more I felt I had to be more vocal about it. Hence, what I did, I heard from so many people that had not disclosed it or were not knowledgeable about it, and it was still looked at as a liability more so than anything else, and a mental disorder potentially.
Yeah.
And so now Dr. Halliwell, that is a medical doctor. He's a professor and a doctor, obviously, and he is ADHD and has dyslexia.
Wow.
So do I. Dyslexia.
And you wrote how many books? You know what I mean? Yeah, that's awesome.
And he wrote 18,
Yeah.
of which 5 are on distraction.
Yeah.
And he is well known around the world. And so you are my podcast number 361.
Wow.
I interviewed Dr. Hollywell on my podcast, and his podcast is 203, On the Brink. And if you have an opportunity,
I will. I'll check it out.
You should watch it.
Okay,
and so my suggestion to him was that, very good conversation, that I believe, he's the expert, although I lived it, is that I believe that frequency of occurrence much higher than I initially thought. I thought it would be at least 20%. He said, no, John, more than 25%.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100% more than 25%.
And I agree with that.
Yeah.
Then I said to him that in the time that I've been around, I've been involved in business, on boards of directors, and on and on and on and on, all those kind of things. I've met a lot of smart people. And I concluded from that exercise that I believe of the successful ones, and the operative is successful ones, probably 50% of them I suggested to Dr. Hollywell are ADHD. He said, no, John, 75%.
Yeah, I think so.
I agree with them.
Yeah.
So I came to the conclusion that, that probably over 30% of the population ADHD.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
And undiagnosed, most of them, I would say.
Yeah.
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 Which is a problem. Yeah.
And so then I felt I had to write a book about it. Did you get my book?
No, I haven't read it yet because of my ADHD.
Do you have it though?
No, I need to get it.
Okay,
Yeah.
you will get one before you leave.
Okay, sounds good. But it's the truth because of my
I like
ADHD.
that. Yeah.
It's the truth. Yeah, I have the last few years. It's getting a bit better. I do find when I sleep more and I eat a better diet, it helps. That one?
Did you read this one?
No, I haven't read any of
Do
them.
you have it?
No, I don't.
Okay, okay, let me show you another one then. How about this one?
I don't. I haven't read it and I don't have it.
I'm going to get you that
Okay,
one.
so-
And then I'm going to bring you back 2 weeks later and ask you questions. No, I'm just joking. And then the
That'll
last,
make me sweat.
yeah, the last one that I did is this one.
Yeah.
Living Young, Dying Old.
Yeah.
And I will get you a copy of that as well
Oh
before
my gosh,
you leave.
thank you, John. I
So,
appreciate it.
and
I will read it.
and I'm a storyteller.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's
Okay.
what I do in my
Okay.
books. I tell stories. And anyway, so so this one I found important that I did it because several times I'm meeting people that either know they have it but never really talked about it, and I thought it was so unfortunate. And then young people in particular that are struggling in school, the sooner people, their parents or their know about them, then they can work with them and make the learning process easier.
100%. And we need to take away the stigma, and that's what your books are doing. That's
Absolutely.
what everyone that talks about it does.
Yeah,
For men and women, but
correct.
it's interesting, like even though women, it's a little bit harder to tell, traditionally they're more open to talking about it, where men, I find they're less open to talking about it, and maybe
Yeah,
finding, like I know so many men that didn't graduate high school, especially in this town, that are like honestly in the forestry industry, right? And they probably have ADHD, but they're some of the smartest men that I know. They have successful like companies and they're really great, but they're just
because
of it, yeah.
not in lieu of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they struggle with school. They struggle with that. But
Yeah.
I mean, well, now society's starting to take a look at the education system and how it's built, right? But I was just going to say it's kind of not it's a no-brainer why somebody with ADHD would struggle in a classroom environment. I was always in trouble in class for talking or doing something. And luckily I could maybe I'm a little bit more on, like I'm kind of not too, I don't know if I was going to say have too much ADHD, or I don't know if I just know I've always kind of managed it somehow. But I guess I can force myself to study and kind of force myself to do the things that I need to do. Maybe that's the perfectionism in me, but I struggle with school. I really do.
But but I do. I'm very good in things that I like.
Okay, yeah, I am good with
and
things
that
I like.
includes writing.
Yes, I love writing.
Yeah, and I'm not reading for me because of my dyslexia. It's not good for me. Although I did audios on all of them.
Oh, okay.
And read them myself.
Yeah.
But it takes me longer than it would be for somebody else.
Yeah, like I do find it's linked to kind of my day-to-day life. So if I'm sleeping enough, if I'm eating right, if I'm working out and taking care of myself, then I can focus enough to read. So I have noticed I've been able to read more because that's been my focus last few months, is my mental health and taking care of it and sleeping. But when I'm not sleeping, like if I'm working all the time and I'm not sleeping and I'm not eating right, No, I can't read. It's just not
No.
going to happen. I just can't even sit down.
So the
Yeah.
the other thing that happened to me that changed my life is this one did, no question about. So meeting the Canadians,
that's
when I was
interesting.
5 years old, and then having the dream to go to Canada has always stayed with me. So that changed my life, and then leaving because I always knew that I was different than other people, and I didn't know why.
Yeah, and I was going to say, so something a geography teacher said to me years ago at UNBC, like he said, anytime you meet someone who's an immigrant or someone who comes from another country, they're special, because people that are normal, they stay, right? They stay in their country. So I was going to say, I know it's
Good
your
point.
ADHD, but also there is something special about you because of the fact that you were willing to migrate to a new country.
Yeah.
And I think more people in this country need to kind of sometimes recognize that these people that come here are pretty cool people, and
Yeah.
they're probably a little bit adventurous and different, and maybe just get to know them a little bit.
Yeah, some
know?
people in the forest industry kind of think of me as a troublemaker.
Is that a bad thing though? I
That's
don't know.
a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Exactly. Yeah.
So the in any event, the other part that made a difference to me is that I was not a good communicator, and I was okay in the setting of my business, 3 or 4 people at a time, but outside of that, I was not very good. And then an ex-sister-in-law of mine actually convinced me to go to Toastmasters.
Okay. What's that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, I never heard of that.
Never heard of it?
No, no, I thought of toast, so I don't think so.
Google it.
Okay, well.
So there's probably 4 or 5 Toastmaster clubs here in town,
Okay.
and it specializes in communication skills.
All right.
And so and for me to give me confidence and interacting like we are speaking, but more give me confidence. That was important for me. So I feared. And so when we she said, let's go to a meeting together and you can see if you like it. I said, is anybody going to ask me questions? She said, no. Just sit there and halfway through the meeting, they said, hey, John, tell us all about it. I said, okay, I'll never go back here, ever. But I did. I stayed for 10 years.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
I became a distinguished Toastmaster. That's the highest level in Toastmasters.
Okay.
And there are probably 450,000 people actively involved in Toastmastering as we speak. There's 4 clubs here in Prince George, at least 4.
That is so
And
cool.
and so the focus is on communications, and then in particular on, if you said to me, what is the most important part of Toastmasters and communications, is to be a good listener, first and foremost. Secondly, likely to be able to speak on your feet and articulate, dialogue in your mind, either receiving it or putting it out, is very important, and to create that sense of comfort that, like before that, I would not have been able to do any of this, not the writing, not the podcasting, not all the other, because I never know what will happen. And
Yeah.
especially not in, the podcasting that I do.
No, you
But
wouldn't.
I always have the confidence that I will find the dialogue,
Yeah.
and it has worked well for me, and I'm
Yeah.
a good communicator. And so, but I always was a good communicator, but I did not have the confidence. Hence, coincidentally, picking up this book in the bookstore here on 3rd.
I love that. That is so cool.
Can you believe it?
Oh, I can, but
It
I know what
changed
you mean.
my
Yeah.
life, you know.
Yeah. I have that happen to me. I'll say the universe or God, whatever you want to say. Like, I do think it speaks to you in those ways. And I think, again, the universe or God will find ways to speak to you. And I think it knew that you needed that connection, and you were going to try to look for a book. And so it presented that to you. And I know that's happened to me where sometimes I just turn the radio on or I go pick up a book kind of like from a secondhand store. Oh, what's this book? And I open it and it's exactly what I needed, right? And look, it totally changed your life, right?
Totally
And
changed
it's
my
just so cool that I love that was secondhand and everything. Yeah.
And then the other part about it is
Yeah.
going to Toastmasters, right?
Exactly. That's so cool too. And that it's such a good lesson though, because you went to Toastmasters because you were willing to start to work on yourself.
Exactly.
You have to make that first step, no matter how scary it is, because it's
Yeah,
really.
but I was already 50 years old.
Wow.
And already successful.
Yeah.
You know, and then
Yeah.
by the time I went to the doc to get the diagnosis for ADHD, can you imagine that I left school at 12 and a half years old. Then 50 years later, at 62, I went to the doc and then confirmed that I have ADHD.
And you
And
went
for
that long.
that whole period in between,
Yeah.
I said, who am I?
I was gonna say, did you just
Why
think you were
am I
like neurotic?
different? Huh?
Yeah, did you just think you were like kind of, no, I was gonna say neurotic or something, or like, I don't know. I always just, thought I was like really bad at time management. I thought I was bad at time management and that I was just kind of being lazy or putting stuff off sometimes. And then once I kind of figured out what it was, I was like, oh, there's a real reason as to why I act like this.
So how long ago was it that you kind of discovered that?
Not
That's,
long.
yeah.
Yeah, not long. When I was little, the doctor told my mom that I had ADHD, and she was like, "No, there's no way." But the funny thing is, I told my doctor that, and the doctor was laughing, and he goes, "Well, for a '90s mom, they never wanted you to have
No.
ADHD, right? It was a stigma."
Yeah.
So she,
Probably she had it.
yeah, probably, yeah, exactly. I'm sure my Dito, like my grandpa, he's from the Ukraine, but I'm sure he had it too, like looking
Yeah.
back and all that stuff. But yeah, and so I went for so long, and like I said, I could kind of management, I think, because I was also a perfectionist, but it was really difficult, to manage that lifestyle. And I always felt like I kind of was struggling a little bit, whereas other people seem to just be so focused.
Yeah.
And my mind, like, it's gotten more focused. Like I said, I've kind of found ways to help it, but especially when I was younger, it just was all over the place.
Yeah.
And when my ADHD gets bad too, like, I'm having a conversation, I'm stopping like halfway through the conversation, or because another thought's coming to you.
And that's the thing that I learned in Toastmasters.
Okay.
Is that,
Yeah.
that and I can say that to you and the other 2 million people that are watching us, that I'm very good at what I do.
Yeah.
And the reason for it is that I have no anxiety about, we have not practiced what we talk about. We release this podcast by tomorrow morning. Likely we're not going to edit it in any form. That's what I do with all the podcasts that we do.
I do
all 360 of them.
Yeah, and sorry, I also interrupt people. It's my other
That's
call.
good. No, yeah,
But I was gonna say, and that's what I felt made me good at first response. And I think a lot of people with ADHD are very good at first response because of it. Because when chaos happens, that's when your brain finally calms down, right?
Right.
Yeah. So there is a lot of superpower to it that people don't.
Yeah, and there's no question about that. I couldn't have done. They said to me, "Well, how do you do all of this? You got 10 companies that you're running. You're writing books. You're a speaker. You're podcasting, top 1% globally, and how do you do all this stuff?" I say, ADHD. That's how.
Yeah.
So and so the other point that I was going to make is that, so for 50 years, I've been struggling with it and saying, who am I?
Yeah.
Because I know I'm different, but I didn't know what it was until I saw this book. And so that changed everything, combines it with, Toastmasters, and then I'm a good writer, not a good reader, I'm a good reader, not a good writer. No, I'm saying the wrong way around. So anyway, you would say.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, so the reading to me is difficult. Writing to me is, I love writing, but not reading. And so the other part about it is that, so for all those years I've been wondering, who am I? And then the other part, if you were sitting here on the other side, hypothetically speaking, and you watched, I don't know if you've seen any of my podcasts, but a lot of the podcasts that you would see would be virtual of some very, very interesting people.
Yeah.
And at some point, likely the fact that I'm ADHD will come up in the podcast. And I believe that at least in 50% of the cases, somebody will say that I've never told anybody this, but I'm ADHD, or they will tell me my son is, or my daughter is, or my husband, so over and over and over and over again, that's happening.
Which is really cool that people are finally feeling okay to talk about it.
And that's the point.
Yeah, exactly. Because like you just said, you went your whole life thinking there was something different or like wrong with you essentially, and there's nothing wrong with you at all.
No.
And there's nothing wrong with
To
all
the
those
contrary,
people.
in fact, you can really make it work for you.
Yeah, you really can. Like even with school, like I can struggle, but I can also write an essay the night before and get an A on it the next day.
Exactly.
I don't, great power comes great responsibility. I don't like doing that if I don't have to, but I know I can do it if I have to.
I can too.
Yeah.
And I've been in a situation where I had to prepare a presentation and I wait too long but once I got my mind made up, it just kind of flows out.
Yeah.
So
right?
that is the one of the benefits. But I believe if it helps to take the stigma away from it being a liability or a mental disorder, then to me, then that gives me satisfaction that I'm doing the right thing. And so that to me is important.
100%. Yeah, no, and I think you are like truly anybody that's taught, like I said, that the stigma has to be removed so that people just know, because there's a lot of deep issues that can sometimes come from undiagnosed issues. Not even an issue, but undiagnosed ADHD and many other things that people have, right?
Right.
And as soon as you know what it is, it's just like a weight is off your shoulders and you can deal with it. And
then especially if you recognize that a lot of the successful people ADHD,
because
and so it does not then become a liability in somebody's mind.
Yeah.
And I had it at one point, actually. We made it available, this book, I gave a lot of them away and sent it to a lot of the city councils, and I had to do a presentation in west of town in Smithers, I think it was, and the fella came up to me and they said, "I know you're having dinner, but if you have time, can you talk to me? I'm sitting down." I said, "Sure, I'll stop by."
Yeah.
So I stopped by and he said, "I was a counselor and I got a copy of your book, and I have a son that is 15 years old that's been struggling with ADHD.
Yeah.
And so we read your book together."
Yeah.
Can you
Isn't that
imagine?
cool?
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Saying, wow.
Yeah, that is so cool. Like, that's the thing. And so many people have it that, it's just time that the stigma, because I forget there's a stigma because I don't have that. But you're right. But there is. Like, it's interesting, but there is. Just slowly but surely, that's just what we got to do.
Carla, interesting discussion. Anything else on your mind before we stop?
No, I don't think so. Oh, the only thing I was going to say was, I guess, and I forgot because ADHD, but I guess that's kind of where the photography comes from too in the end, is it quiets my mind.
Right.
When I can't think, or when I just feel like there's just too many thoughts, like I can just drive out to the bush, take some pictures, be with the animals, and it's like you just quiet it all.
Yeah, it's so unique here,
Yeah.
So and hopefully entrepreneurship is interesting, and once you create a model, always feel free to talk to me if you wish.
I will.
Yeah,
I
I'll
appreciate
give
that.
you a copy of my business card.
I will.
As well,
Yeah.
and but obviously you have talent, very unique talent,
I
which
really
is
appreciate
unique
that. Thank
to
you.
see that, and you will be very successful, I'm sure.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So for all those people watching us here, talking about with Carla Lindstrom on photographing and being an entrepreneur, and then having ADHD is always interesting to talk about, coincidentally. We didn't know that beforehand, and so it gave us the opportunity to explore that. And for us on the Brink in our podcasting, if you like what you see, you want to see more of it, sometimes we do podcasting in person, other times we podcast people around the world, and it gives our viewers from around the world a bit of a picture in the true sense of the photographs and of the unique individuals that live around here, and will be a friend of mine and of my organization as we go forward, and I'm sure you're going to see Carla again in the future. In the meantime, check out our website, which is
Northern Girl Photography on Instagram.
yeah, there we go. Again, share with others, like it, and again, thank you for watching.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
John.
for
I
being my
appreciate
guest.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you.